Hi, I'm Brent from Juno.
Hi, this is Brent Lindbergh with FuseNeo, and today on Unpacked we're going to be talking about packaging. All right, let's see how I can butcher this. More specifically, custom versus stock packaging. Technically, all packaging is custom. It's got your logo on it, your brand on it, your colors, things like that. But structurally, a lot of packaging out there is stock, and a lot of it's custom. And so what is stock packaging? Well, quite simply, stock packaging is packaging that's used for multiple brands that is the exact same shape or the exact same structure. So this bottle right here is a stock bottle that's sold to different brands that are putting juice in it. Versus custom packaging, like this box here, where one brand owns this packaging and nobody else has anything like it. There's also this interesting space that we like to play in that's called semi-custom. And sometimes that's just taking a stock package and making it a little bit more ownable and unique, like this Stella can that is a stock structure, but has a custom emboss on it that makes it distinctly theirs and more premium in this case. So one question that we get a lot is, when do I go custom, or when do I use stock, and why do I use it? There's a number of factors to that. Some of those factors are what your brand is about. If packaging is really an important asset to your brand, if you want it to be ownable and unique and identifiable, if you're a luxury brand versus a more of a commodity-based brand, back it up. Another factor are the volumes that you sell at, whether you can afford to go custom or are required to go stock. It could be the way that you're manufacturing. Maybe your co-packer that you're using or your contract manufacturer only has the ability to use certain formats of packaging. In certain cases, you're really forced to use more stock packaging.
And stuff,
Yep, so my thought
packaging
is,
stuff.
There are also certain formats that are more conducive to stock versus custom. So when you're talking about things like the whole world of cans, you do have a few examples of more custom packaging and more custom profiles or custom engraving, but in general, volumes for cans are so high and it's really difficult to do custom, even for some of the largest brands. It's very timely, it's costly, and takes a lot of time to create that custom packaging. And glass is another one that's very timely, and it just takes a lot of time and cost to create custom, but it is doable. Argo T has showcased that. Plastic bottles, thermoforming, things like that, kind of sit in the middle of the road where you can create custom packaging pretty easily and your volumes can be a little bit lower. You know, Ollie here has done that with their vitamin packaging. There are some formats like these tubes that the format itself is kind of a stock format. You can get it in different diameters and heights, but in general, it's flexibles is a place where totally custom is difficult, but semi-custom is the name of the game here. So shapes like this and formats like this are stock. You can get this type of bag, maybe with a zip strip, maybe without, in different dimensions, but in general, the format is the same. This brand has done more of a soft touch on the outside. Things like this, you can change the profile of this relatively easily and inexpensively. You can change the cap on top, although there's not a ton of options for some of these child caps. It's a little bit easier to go more semi-custom here in this space, or in some cases completely custom, like these sprinkles from Wilton here, where they've completely changed the die line. Formats like paper packaging and corrugated packaging are really one of the easiest to go completely custom, and in some cases there are no stock packaging for corrugated. If you take, for example, this packaging from Disney, this is a pretty stock rigid setup box with just a custom insert for the bands that they've built. This is very much a kind of customized stock packaging. You know, when you get into some of these high-end electronics, you have, just a second. seriously, I'm an idiot. That has this all custom thermoform components on the inside, and the way that it's all built out, it's very custom. But it's a more stock flip open rigid setup box. One last space when we're talking about custom packaging is in thermoforming or in pulp. Pulp trays have become a lot more prevalent in both the consumer electronics space and the food and beverage space. Not so much beverage. This is something that kind of sits in the middle as well, where the cost may not be super prohibitive, but volumes may still need to be a lot higher to justify going custom on this. So there is no set formula as when to go custom. Brands like Coke have really created their structure as their brand identity, and they've owned that shape. There are brands that are very much using custom packaging, but there are also brands that are doing some really cool things with stock packaging. Companies like Brandless, who have built their brand language around things that are more simple and more stock. And in some cases, simple doesn't mean stock. Some of that simple packaging is completely custom. It is really about looking at your options and knowing all of the options that you have available. And that is custom versus stock packaging. Stay tuned for more videos, and hit subscribe and maybe a like. I don't know, that was probably dumb. We'll be talking in more detail about some of these formats in future videos, so stay tuned.